On November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. It was a routine flight from Portland to Seattle. But what happened next was far from ordinary. Cooper would soon become the central figure in one of America's most enduring mysteries. He was a nondescript man in his mid-40s. He wore a business suit and carried a briefcase. As the plane took off, Cooper's true intentions became clear. He passed a note to Florence Schaffner, a flight attendant. At first, she thought it was his phone number. But Cooper leaned in and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Cooper threatened to blow up the plane if his demands weren't met. The mystery of D.B. Cooper had begun, and it was far from over. Cooper's demands were specific and non-negotiable. He wanted $200,000 in unmarked bills. This was a fortune in 1971, equivalent to over $1.3 million today. He also requested 4 parachutes, 2 main chutes and 2 reserve chutes. This detail puzzled investigators. Was he planning to take a hostage on his jump? Or was it a clever ruse to make authorities believe he might? The hijacker remained calm throughout the ordeal. He sipped bourbon and smoked cigarettes. He was polite to the flight crew, even offering to pay for his drinks. This behavior added to the enigma surrounding Cooper. He spoke with what the crew described as a Northwestern accent. Cooper's knowledge of the aircraft and skydiving procedures was notable. He requested the plane fly at 10,000 feet with the landing gear down. This expertise led many to believe he had a military or aviation background. Yet, his identity remained a complete mystery. As the plane circled Seattle, tension mounted. The stage was set for the next phase of his audacious plan. The plane touched down in Seattle at 5:45 p.m. Cooper's plan was unfolding smoothly. He allowed the passengers to disembark. This move reduced the risk to civilian lives. It also showed Cooper wasn't interested in taking hostages. The airport was a hive of activity. FBI agents, airline officials, and local law enforcement swarmed the tarmac. An FBI agent named Richard Tosaw approached the plane. He carried a briefcase containing the $200,000 ransom. The money was in $20 bills. Tosaw also brought the 4 parachutes Cooper had demanded. The exchange was tense but orderly. Cooper inspected the money and parachutes carefully. With the ransom secured, Cooper outlined his next demands. He wanted the plane to fly to Mexico City. Cooper's daring escape was about to enter its final, most mysterious phase. At 8 p.m., the Boeing 727 took off from Seattle with Cooper and the skeleton crew on board. The atmosphere was tense. Cooper sat in the back of the plane, keeping a watchful eye on the cockpit. He had been specific about the flight conditions. The plane was to fly at 10,000 feet with the rear stairs lowered. About 45 minutes into the flight, something extraordinary happened. A light on the cockpit control panel began to flash. It indicated that the rear stairs had been deployed. The crew was alarmed but couldn't investigate. Cooper had ordered them to remain in the cockpit. Minutes later, they felt a sudden upward tilt of the plane. This was consistent with a sudden loss of weight at the rear. What exactly transpired in those moments remains a mystery. Did Cooper jump immediately? Did he hesitate? Was he prepared for the harsh conditions outside the plane? Despite these challenges, Cooper had vanished into the night. The crew, unaware of his exact actions, continued flying south. The greatest manhunt in Northwest history was about to begin. The FBI launched an extensive search operation codenamed NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. It was one of the most intensive and expensive investigations in the Bureau's history. Agents combed through the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. They focused on an area near the Lewis River in southwest Washington state. This was where Cooper was believed to have landed. The search faced numerous challenges. The terrain was rugged and heavily forested. Winter was setting in, making conditions harsh. There was also uncertainty about Cooper's exact drop zone. The plane's route and speed provided only a rough estimate. Agents searched on foot, by helicopter, and even used infrared sensors. They hoped to find any trace of Cooper or his equipment. Despite their efforts, no trace of Cooper was found. No body, no parachute, no briefcase full of money. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Cooper had become a ghost, eluding one of the most extensive manhunts in American history. In February 1980, Nearly a decade after the hijacking, there was a breakthrough. A young boy named Brian Ingram was camping with his family along the Columbia River. While digging a fire pit on the riverbank, he made an astonishing discovery. He unearthed 3 packets of weathered $20 bills. The serial numbers matched those of the ransom money given to D.B. Cooper. This discovery reignited interest in the case. It was the first physical evidence linked to Cooper since his disappearance. The FBI thoroughly examined the money and the site where it was found. The bills were badly decomposed, indicating they had been in the water for a long time. Only a small portion of the ransom was recovered, $5,800 out of the original $200,000. The location of the money raised new questions. It was found about 20 miles northwest of Portland, Oregon. This was inconsistent with the FBI's initial search area. How did the money end up there? Did Cooper survive the jump and bury it himself? Or did the river carry it downstream from where he actually landed? The discovery of the money was both revealing and perplexing. The 1980 discovery breathed new life into the investigation, but it was far from solving the case. In the decades since the hijacking, numerous theories about Cooper's identity have emerged. One popular theory suggests Cooper was Richard Floyd McCoy. McCoy was killed in a shootout with law enforcement. Another suspect was Kenneth Christensen, a former paratrooper. His brother claimed Kenneth confessed to being D.B. Cooper. In 2011, Marla Cooper claimed her uncle, L.D. Cooper, was the hijacker. The FBI investigated but found no conclusive evidence. A team of amateur investigators continues to pursue new leads. Over the years, the D.B. Cooper case has become shrouded in myth and speculation. It's important to separate fact from fiction. One common misconception is that D.B. were Cooper's initials. In fact, he bought his ticket under the name Dan Cooper. The D.B. came from a media misunderstanding early in the reporting of the case. Another myth is that Cooper was an expert skydiver. While he seemed knowledgeable about planes, there's no evidence he was a skilled parachutist. In fact, experts argue that his jump was extremely risky. The conditions were harsh and he was poorly equipped for such a feat. This has led many to believe he didn't survive the jump. Some people believe Cooper had an inside man at the airport. This theory suggests he couldn't have planned the hijacking alone. However, the FBI found no evidence of an accomplice. The simplicity of Cooper's plan actually made it easier to execute solo. One persistent rumor is that Cooper's identity is known to the FBI, but they're covering it up. The FBI publicly closed the case in 2016 due to lack of evidence. The truth is, despite decades of investigation, Cooper's true identity remains a mystery. The D.B. Cooper case continues to captivate the public imagination nearly 5 decades later. What is it about this particular crime that makes it so enduring? Part of the allure lies in its uniqueness. Cooper pulled off something that seemed impossible. He hijacked a plane, extorted a fortune, and vanished without a trace. It's the stuff of Hollywood movies, except it actually happened. The timing of the hijacking also contributes to its mystique. It occurred in 1971, a time of social upheaval in America. The Vietnam War was raging and trust in government institutions was low. To some, Cooper became a folk hero. He was seen as a man who outsmarted the system. This Robin Hood-like image persists, even though Cooper was, in reality, a criminal. The unsolved nature of the case is perhaps its most compelling aspect. It's a real-life whodunit that has stumped the FBI for decades. This uncertainty allows people to project their own theories and fantasies onto the story. The lack of closure fuels endless speculation. In July 2016, the FBI suspended the D.B. Cooper case. This came after 45 years of following leads. The Bureau needed to focus on other priorities. They will still analyze any new physical evidence. The case file, over 60 volumes, remains preserved. The suspension hasn't closed the case in the public mind. Interest among amateur sleuths has intensified. The internet is a platform for sharing theories. Online forums dedicated to Cooper are active. They continue the hunt the FBI abandoned. New claims and potential leads still emerge. In 2018, investigators claimed new evidence. They found a parachute strap in the drop zone. This claim hasn't been linked to Cooper. Extraordinary evidence is needed to reopen the case. Pulling off such a crime and disappearing seems impossible today. The case of D.B. Cooper is unsolved but not forgotten. The D.B. Cooper hijacking left an indelible mark on American aviation. The case remains a source of fascination and speculation. Cooper's legacy endures as one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries.